just got to love the history of the Repco Bathurst 1000, and we are celebrating 60 years of the great race here this weekend. Practice 6 not too far away, but before we get the supercar action back out on track, we're just going to tip our cap to the history books here. We've got 6 of the most beautiful cars celebrating the history of this race. The Legends Parade, not too far away from getting out onto the track. And when you look at names like Moffat and Brock, 2 of the biggest names to ever tackle this mountain, they were such fierce rivals, it's hard to believe that they ever actually shared a race car here. It happened once, 1986, in this gorgeous Mobile 1 HDT Commodore, signed by the 2 great men as well. Originally debuted as a VK Commodore before getting converted over to VL trim, and it competed in 1987, actually owned by Kenny Hibble, who's won the 12-hour and a real historian of the sport. Great, Jess, to see the Brock name represented here today, still at Mount Panorama.
Yeah, it's exactly where it needs to be, isn't it, Chad? And James Brock, Peter's son, will do the honours with this incredible lap, paying tribute to Peter's legacy, but also as we celebrate 60 years of the great race. James, it's lovely to see you here. Just tell us what it means to you, to the family, to be able to steer this car for an honorary lap around the mountain.
No one's ever going to give up an opportunity to drive a car like this around this track. It's an amazing event. The place is, I grew up around here. It has so many memories. It's an honour to be able to represent the family, and I would like to just give a shout out to Kenny for lending me this beautiful car for the honour, and I promise I will bring it home safe.
Just tell us what it means to you and to the family to come back here each and every year. The event, I mean, check out all of the people. They're all Peter Brock fans. He really built his legacy on the mountain, a 9-time winner of the great race. How special is it to the family to be able to honour him?
Oh, very special, obviously. You know, it's amazing to be part of the family that is a part of Australian culture. This is, you know, just a huge event. It means so much to so many people, and to the family, it's an integral part of our history and our lives.
James, enjoy the lap.
Thank you.
Great to have the Brock name represented here. And how about this car, belovingly known as Kate, the Vodafone Commodore that was so successful for Jamie Whincup throughout the 2011 and 2012 campaigns. It won just so many races. It was only topped by Shane Van Gisbergen in the SB Commodore over the last few years. And it's actually owned by Jamie Whincup himself. It's back in the 2012 colours. And that VE Commodore, not just only won a bunch of races, it won the race here some 11 years ago, and it's just been a pride of Jamie's to see this car not only put on display at the Bent Motorsport Park, but a chance, Jess, for him to get back behind the wheel and turn back the clock to his last Bathurst victory here today.
Indeed, it's lovely to have Kate back here at Mount Panorama. Jamie, I know she's your other great love in life, isn't she? You need your sunglasses though, you just forget how bright the livery is on this car. Talk to us about your favourite memories from that day back in 2012 winning here.
Oh, it was another fuel race, of course. It was one of those, I reckon there's been a good dozen races that have come down to how much fuel you got in the tank at the end, and that day we had probably half a Red Bull can of fuel left. Got us over the line in front of Dave Reynolds. So yeah, it was a 50th anniversary. It was a huge event, massive, similar to this weekend as being the 60th. So it was a very memorable day.
Now, will this be the first lap for this car since that day?
I did a couple of sneaky laps at Tailem Bend about 3 years ago, but this is going to be the second time it's been driven in what's been 10 years or so.
First time here, though?
First time for Bathurst, yeah, 100%. So it's a pretty special moment. I'm still in the rat race. You know, we're still just racing and just head down trying to get a result. But it's moments like these where you really need to think of what this sport's all about, what this place is all about. So I'm going to really try to enjoy these laps.
And how special for all of the fans. I mean, check it out. They are packed into the circuit already, and we're still counting down to the big race.
Yeah, I think all our new fans will be like, what the hell are these cars? You know, but there's plenty of people here that have been here for 20, 30, 40 years in a row. So hopefully this is special for them to see a bit of, you know, go back, walk memory lane a little bit and see the old cars that have come before us.
Great to catch up, Jamie. Enjoy the lap.
Thank you, Jess. Will do. Cheers. Thanks.
Next up, we'll take you back to the amazing Group A era of cars, and you cannot celebrate Bathurst without talking about the Richards family. Stephen Richards proudly wearing some of the old race suits that his dad would campaign, and this is not exactly the car that Jim Richards ran here at Mount Panorama sharing with Mark Scaife. It actually debuted as the Sizzler privateer car. It predates Godzilla and the arrival on 1991 and 92 here at the mountain, but the Group A era was just such a fabulous time in the sport, with the Sierras taking on the Nissans and that 1990 Skyline GTSR predating the GTRs that would come and absolutely mop up Mount Panorama. It's just a special car. and an important time of Jim Richards' career after stepping away from the Holden team into what was an extremely strong factory Nissan operation. And how good does that race suit look, Jess?
Oh, it looks so good, and the Richards family is synonymous here with the mountains. Steve, a 5-time winner, and Gentleman Jim, a 7-time winner. Now, you just told me this car hasn't been touched since that year.
No, it's absolutely as it was raced in 1990 when it paved the way for the Nissan GTR to come on board. And it's been in our family for the last 10 years, recently passed on to a really good friend of ours. And I got to drive it at Phillip Island this year at the historic race meeting, and it is fantastic.
Oh, she looks absolutely beautiful. Tell me, how much are you going to enjoy this lap, getting in this car, and what this place, Mount Panorama, means to you and your family and the legacy that you hold here?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we've got a great history of the great race here on the grid, and, this was a big part of it for my dad. Fortunate enough, first time I drove it was at Phillip Island this year. And I mean, look, it's just a great place. The reason people are here is because of the legacy of what it's brought to Australian motorsport, and just to be able to cruise around in a car that Dad raced around here that'll be great.
Great to see you, Richo. Enjoy.
Thanks, Jess.
Looking forward to seeing his son Clay up very soon as well in the 86s. How about this legend, Larry Perkins, 1993 Castrol Commodore, that did such a good job in the hands of Ryan Hansford, who was also a star on 2 wheels and 4. And this car has been so lovingly restored by Larry's son Jack. And then also in the Dunlop series, you'll see the throwback to this car as well, on board with Shaw and Partners and Castrol. A beautiful piece of machinery. It's actually on display here throughout the course of the weekend for the fans to get up close and personal with. It was an amazing time for Larry Perkins throughout the 90s. That was the only great race that he claimed with the late Greg Hansford, I should say, before hopping on board with Russell Ingall over the years. But Jess, great to see that car back, and well done to Jack and the team for putting it back to this level of restoration.
Doesn't it look absolutely beautiful, Chad? And it's so wonderful to catch up with the man, Larry Perkins. 30 years, in fact, since this car won here at Mount Panorama, and your son Jack has done a beautiful job restoring her.
It's fantastic, and I think 30 years ago I sat on pole position there and won the race, and Jack then got hold of the car and he did a fantastic job, and I'm going to use the occasion to thank a couple of special people. Dave Gardner had the engine, he donated it to us. Tremendous gesture from Dave Gardner, but Jack done the work, Travis done the work, and I feel pretty privileged to now have a sit in it, and after all that work, and it's great to be here.
LP, tell me, what are you going to enjoy most about doing this honorary lap of Mount Panorama in this special car?
Probably the fact I can. And I thought I was in my original driving suit, but then someone pointed out it's got Jack's name on it. But I was kidding myself. But no, it's great to be here because I don't come to the races all the time now. And to see a tremendous crowd of people here, all enthusiasts on an industry that I love, it's great to see. And I thank every fan for coming along, and just great to be here.
The suit suits you, Larry. Enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
Time to celebrate the modern day king of the mountain, Craig Lowndes, and the better electrical Falcon. And this is a really special car in the history of 888. They're celebrating 20 years and everything that they have achieved in supercars. It was first car to win a race at Eastern Creek in 2005 for the team. It claimed the pole here later that year, but unfortunately they didn't quite have too much luck in the race. A rub against the wall, and then ultimately the wheel going through the windscreen of this car before they came back in 2006. Lowndes and Whincup together. And in the modern day era, Jess, there was not a more emotional win at Mount Panorama than the day Craig Lowndes saluted his late great friend and mentor, Peter Brock.
Indeed. It's so lovely to catch up with you, Lowndesy. This is going to be special for you.
Well, it is. I think that even before we drove the cars out, we're in obviously the marquee, and we're also having a look around the cars, and it's amazing how primitive they are inside. And then I'm going to get back in this one, and Gary Bailey prepped the car, and he actually said the seat belts, everything inside this car is what Jamie and I drove back at 06.
Wow. These are always pretty emotional moments for you, because I know how much this place means. And to have Richo in front of you, to have James Brock here, to have Larry Perkins, to have all of these incredible heroes who have really carved their legacy here, including you, is something pretty special. And I know you really look forward to these moments.
Well, we do, and actually Jamie come up and we got a photo with this car because we sort of broke the drought in the sense for Ford with this car, and also it was that year. It was the 06 year with Peter, and it was a special moment. And I remember I actually said to the boys, I'd rather actually start in 6 because we actually started the race in 06 in grid 6. So look, it's going to be really special to be able to showcase these cars, and it's great to see the cars still running around these days, and to see Dick and obviously the 3 generations, the Johnsons, as you said, Larry's still a character.
Certainly is. Wave to all those fans at the top of the mountain for me, won't you?
I will.
And the last car on the list, and how about this for a royal family here at Mount Panorama? The Johnson name synonymous with the mountain from the day he struck the rock to the day they claimed their most recent victory here with Scott McLaughlin, and the different iterations of the Green's Tough cars that have had so much success and sometimes even pain here at Mount Panorama. And a chance to look at the Mustang that originally debuted as the number 18 car. It was driven to qualifying form here by Larry Perkins in 1985. Jess, take it away. Dick Johnson and car 17 doesn't get much bigger than that at Bathurst.
It's synonymous, isn't it? I think this is what you call a Johnson sandwich. Maybe we've got everybody here, which is incredibly special. DJ, tell us what this car means to you.
Well, it certainly brings back a lot of memories because this was the first of the Group A type cars going back in the sort of mid-80s sort of thing. So this was an interim car for us, so we were waiting for the Sierras. And the Sierras obviously did well, but this car was very special. And I'd like to really thank Bill Pye for allowing us to originally build the car back to where it should be, and then for Terry Lawler to bring it out here today is fabulous.
She looks absolutely beautiful, and Jet's going to pilot this lap. You must be so proud to see your grandson behind the wheel of this very, very special car.
Well, you'll probably learn something that to the point where it ain't as easy as it used to be, is it? with all the fancy stuff we've got in the new cars. It's a beautiful little car to drive, and I'm sure he'll enjoy it.
Throwing it back to the good old days. DJ, it's so fabulous to see you here and to see the entire family share in this moment. Enjoy it.
I certainly will. Thank you.
How good is that? Dick and Jill Johnson still here at Mount Panorama. It's the location that the family name really took hold. And how cool is this, watching Jack Perkins strap his old man in to his 1993 Commodore. And a Hans device would be something of a change to the apparel that the drivers used to wear back in 1993. So good to have LP back here at Mount Panorama. Jack continuing that family tradition here this weekend, driving Car 9, the Coca-Cola Camaro this weekend with Will Brown. He's also out there in that special Dunlop Series car as well. So 6 cars set for 6 kilometres of parade here at Mount Panorama. How about the names? Brock, Whincup, Perkins, Johnson, Richards, Lowndes. So good to have them here this week. And I know that on top of the mountain, they'll be making plenty of noise when they see these legendary cars and these legendary drivers with these legendary names going around the mountain one more time. So time to celebrate the great history of the great race, the Repco Bathurst 1000, and a legendary parade filled with some of the stars of yesterday and today as well, generational names that have made this place the storied mountain that it is. And with a big crowd building ahead of the Arm Roll Shootout later today, it's a wonderful opportunity to just tip our cap to the history books and acknowledge some of the biggest names and families in the sport. I've got another big name of the sport joining me for this one as well, and I can't wait to pick his brains on some of the history of these cars. Some he may have driven, some I'm sure he's raced against, some he's beaten, some he's lost to. Mark Scaife, you can never spend too much time acknowledging the past at this venue.
You certainly can't, Chad, and what a great tribute to have those names grace this famous racing track at our 60th anniversary. Brock, Whincup, Richards, Johnson, Lowndes. I mean, how's the Perkins? How's the restoration of that beautiful Castrol? I remember chasing that one. That was an unbelievable race. So we'll go through some of those things as the guys get organised to drive them out. But when Jess was talking to them and when you were reciting some of the records and some of the history of these cars, what a fitting tribute this is for this weekend.
So just to reiterate, we've got James Brock in the Commodore, which is pretty cool to see at the front of the field. We've got the VP Commodore with Larry Perkins himself behind the wheel. How about that name? What a combination that was. Such fierce rivalries for so long, and then to see them team up would have been some pretty conflicting feelings for a few fans here.
It was a massive coup, and it was funny because in the old days, Brock and Moffat did not get on. But as it turned out, they were really quite close personal friends at the end. And Peter just called him and said, would you come and drive with me? And obviously Alan was, you know, he was proud to jump on board with him. And I was standing at the top of the hill at McPhillamy Park in 1986 with my dad when he actually made a little mistake, Moffat, at the top of the hill. He put the right-hand rear wheel in the grass and fired into the fence on the left-hand side of McPhillamy Park. It was actually quite a big shunt.
So it actually had to be heavily restored as well, and it was turned into a VL Commodore. Neil Crompton himself had a chance to drive that car a year later in 1987 at Sandown as well as Oran Park, I believe, and very cool to see it looking resplendent in the Bathurst sun today.
And if you remember so vividly those laps that Brock did when it was wet and drying up in the year of that livery and the way that the car moved around, Brock famously put those intermediate tyres on. That he was famous for putting a tyre on in those days that no one else was game to put on, but he put those tyres on, he threw the car around, he drove it so well. It was unbelievable to see him at his very, very best. And I remember that image of him sliding the car out of the back of the cutting, up and under the tree and across through Reed Park. It was just amazing car control. And
then fat arming it as well with an elbow out the window, just cruising up and down Mount Straight. Doesn't get much cooler than that. Success for this car, 2011 and 2012. Hard to believe it's been that long since Jamie Whincup has got to the top step here. He's had so many close calls at Mount Panorama. He comes in as the reigning Sandown champ, but that is a very special car, and one that he actually owns.
Yeah, look, it's fantastic for Jamie to commission the car and have it here. It's normally on display at Tailem Bend, as you said before, and for Jamie to have that car up here and the memories, I mean, remember, we were lucky enough, Craig Lowndes and I, with Jamie on board in 2010 and then again in 2011, the cars were so competitive. So it was just before that car that I was involved with Triple Eight and Roland Dane and driving with Craig Lowndes, and we enjoyed a fantastic 1-2 in 2010, and all of the team, I've got so much memorabilia and so many great memories of that sort of livery being one of the most dominant parts of the Triple Eight history.
And ditto the car behind it.
Well, yeah, how was that? It looks old now, does it? How far have the cars come, Chad? Because when you look inside that car, I drove one of those HR31s at Phillip Island also, and we've just heard Stephen talking about it too. There's nothing inside them. Honestly, the creature comforts and all the stuff we speak about now, as Dick Johnson was talking about before with Jess, there's so much of the old stuff that you just forget how primitive the inside of the cars were. And if you had a big shunt, I mean, honestly, you don't even think about it now, but it's bad.
Larry Perkins and his son Jack putting this car back together once again. Absolutely beautiful race car, and he had an amazing streak of success here with Hansford and Ingle throughout the 90s, and that was the first of it in 1993.
We had a great battle. It was one of the great races, I'll remember it forever. Jim Richards and I in the Winfield Commodore versus Larry and Greg. And at the end of the race, it started to rain, and we'd battled all day. It started to rain, and Jim ended up having to go up the escape road right there because of a lap car, and that basically put us back. But it was a momentous occasion because that car was the last genuine Holden engine in that, because we all had Chev engines from that time on.
Yeah.
So when we turned into the 1993 Commodore Falcon regulations, there were 2 engine options for Commodore in those first years. And the Holden engine that Larry ran was a genuine Holden engine to win the race.
That was a huge source of pride for a lot of Holden fans throughout the 90s, and all Aussie combo getting the job done. This is also the quickest parade lap I've ever seen as well. I suppose when you throw race car drivers an open Bathurst circuit and a race car as well, you're going to have a little bit of a squirt out there.
You certainly are, and this one, as Craig was talking about with Jess, the amount of emotion, I'll remember it forever. It was an incredible week leading into the 2006 version of this race. Burnsy and young Jack, and Jack's wrapped obviously with the restoration of that car. But leading in after the passing of the late great Peter Brock, 9-time winner here, the emotion from all of the crowd, especially Holden fans, was just unbelievable. And we'd come through the whole week We were the shortest price favourites, starting on pole, had the clutch drama, we're out of the race basically within a very short period of time. It was actually Jack Perkins and I out of the race at that time. But the win for Craig and Jamie on that day, and the emotion that was shown by Craig Lowndes was just extraordinary, and that was a win for the ages.
It's almost hard to believe, but if what happened to you on the start line didn't happen that day and then up Mountain Straight, we never would have had that, maybe not have had that incredible story.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, things happen for a reason. Peter Brock used to say that, and at the end of the day, the expectation around us delivering a result for Holden on that day, everybody was into. There's Lowndes, he can't help himself, has to pass LP on the straight.
Now, let's just hope that Lowndes treats us a little better than the last time we threw him a legendary car.
Oh, hell was that? But he almost crashed that. He almost crashed it. Oh, my God. He doesn't know when to quit, does he? He's got to actually be a bit more steady here, Chad, because he'll fire himself off the road the way he was going. He almost crashed. So it was a beautiful HK Monaro that was a tribute car that he almost chucked it in the fence at the Dipper. Here he is, he's going to outbrake. Oh, I hope James has seen him. He has. Thank you for that.
He does realise this isn't actually a race this weekend.
I'm not sure. There's a thing about his wiring. Whenever he gets in a car, he wrings their neck.
One speed and one speed only. Pretty special moment for Jack Perkins to be able to see something that he's put a lot of blood and sweat and tears into getting back out on track, and to see Larry giving it some beans up Mountain Straight, pulling up alongside Jet Johnson. That's actually Dick's grandson driving the Green's Tough Mustang. Cool story there in itself.
I bet Jet's going, oh my God, these blokes were heroes.
Yeah, and he was probably expecting everyone to go out there and cruise around in second gear as well.
Exactly. Here we go. And the interesting part about that car is that they were running together. Perkins and Johnson drove that car together up here, so that was one of the only times that we ever saw LP in a Ford.
Be an out-of-body experience watching a car that he used to drive climb Mountain Straight when he's behind the VP Commodore. This is this Lowndes having a bit of a slide?
This is the slide. So this is down at the left-hander. Watch this. He's a lunatic, absolute lunatic. So he's gassed it up. It pops out sideways. Have a look at the wheel spin. He's gathered it up, no drama. Like, he does it so easily. He's just so naturally gifted, but he just, honestly, he does know only one speed, Chad, and that's going at it.
Across the top of the mountain as well. And sense of irony there, before he drove that car to victory, he was in a parade.
He was, exactly right. Now, that car's a really famous car because against all the GDR noise, that car actually won the 1990 championship for Jimmy Richards. So he dominated the series against Ford Sierras.
How cool is that? And Kate out there with Jamie Whincup getting a few more laps in a car that he drove to so many race wins, and right here as well in 2012, sharing with Paul Dumbrell. Still stands as his last victory here at the Great Race, and he would so dearly love to get back to the top. Well, that was great. What a chance to celebrate the tremendous history of this mountain.
A really special opportunity to see some of the great cars that have raced here at Mount Panorama, and to have so many bloodlines here. Have the Johnson family on standby, to have Larry Perkins back behind the wheel of that car, Jamie Whincup, Craig Lowndes, and James Brock, Peter Brock's son. He was the master of the mountain, a 9-time champion here. But as we celebrate 60 years of the great race, it's time to wind the clock back and revisit some of the star's most favourite moments, including 6-time Bathurst champion Mark Scaife.
Well, 1997 was an interesting one because I was drafted into HRT